On April 30th, 1945, before taking his own life, Adolf Hitler and his mistress Eva Braun burned all their documents, photographs, everything. Hitler wanted nothing to remain after him. At that time, no one knew what had really happened in the bunker before Hitler's death. But now, 70 years later, a French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, who has since passed away, and a privateur have revealed some new political and personal documents of Hitler. These unique documents, coming to light for the first time, give a clearer understanding of the final moments of Hitler's last days. What was the atmosphere in the bunker like? Why did Hitler marry Eva Braun just 24 hours before his death? Which of Hitler's closest companions betrayed him in the final 10 days of his life? When was the decision made to take his own life? And most importantly, what was the one thing that helped the Allied forces confirm that the dead body was indeed Hitler's? Viewers, after Hitler's death, everyone was trying to see and understand the bunker. On November 25, 1945, Commandant Raymond Rose, a French officer, entered the bunker. There were 26 steps to go down into the bunker, leading to a dark room. There, he saw a dark and dirty room, with scattered papers, overturned furniture, and melted candle wax everywhere. Rose found some documents that shed new light on Hitler's final days. These documents revealed that Hitler stood firm on his decisions until the very end, and that even in death, he was seeking victory in his own mind. Just 10 days before Hitler's death, the dream of Nazi Germany, ruling the world, had turned into a mere illusion. His empire, once among the most powerful and a thorn in the side of the Western powers, was now on its last legs. Berlin, the center of Hitler's dreams and power, had turned into rubble. There was devastation, fear, and death all around. Allied bombs were raining down everywhere, and the Red Army was just 100 kilometers away. Hitler, who had hunted others, was now hiding in the darkness of a bunker. This bunker was located 7 meters underground, near the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. It wasn't an ordinary bunker. It was designed by Albert Speer, Hitler's personal architect, to be extremely strong and bomb-proof. It was originally built in 1936, but after Allied bombing became more dangerous in 1943 and 1944, it was further reinforced. In German, this bunker was called the Führer bunker. Führer meaning leader, the leader's bunker. This was the same bunker where Adolf Hitler, the man who dreamed of ruling the world, was now hiding, and where he spent the last days of his life. The atmosphere in the bunker was extremely depressing: thick concrete walls, silence, cold, damp air, and complete darkness. The bunker was like a maze, with small corridors and rooms that made it hard to breathe. There was a private space of 3 rooms for Hitler in the bunker, one of which was a meeting room where he held 2 military briefings daily. Eva Braun, his mistress, had a small room, and both of them shared a bathroom. The atmosphere in the bunker was filled with depression and fear. Being underground, it required a mechanical ventilation system that made constant noise. This noise was not only physically uncomfortable, but it also caused mental torture for those living inside. In the last 10 days, Hitler was not only physically, but also mentally broken. He had developed Parkinson's disease, a condition that causes hand tremors. To hide his illness, he would often keep his trembling hand in his pocket or place it in a position where others couldn't notice. In those final days, his hand would tremble constantly, and even walking became difficult for him. Doctors said that in the last 10 days, Hitler's face looked so pale and exhausted that he appeared 10 to 15 years older than his actual age. Officers who met him during those days were shocked by his deteriorating health. Even Hitler's personal doctor in the bunker, Theodor Morell, would inject him with glucose and vitamins daily, but it was not enough to improve his condition. Hitler losing control of his hand was the biggest sign of his falling morale. Life in the bunker followed a dull and monotonous routine. Every morning, there was a military meeting where his generals would brief him on the worsening situation in Berlin. News of gradually losing control over Berlin frustrated Hitler. He had a naturally distrustful personality. He didn't trust anyone easily. Even in his final days, he remained paranoid that one of his generals might betray him. And, in fact, this is exactly what eventually happened. In the last days, when everyone was thinking about escaping the bunker, Eva Braun stayed with Hitler. Eva Braun had been Hitler's mistress for 13 years. Although they weren't married, she lived with him in the bunker. Experts say that staying in the bunker with Hitler was Eva Braun's insistence, and perhaps that was also Hitler's weakness. Eva was a romantic and emotional woman who wanted to stay with Hitler until the end. Some of Eva's letters were found, which she had written to her friends. After reading these letters, some insight was gained into the private life of Hitler and Eva. Eva's whole purpose in life was to be with Hitler. In one of her letters, she wrote, "This place is very scary, but I'm happy here because Hitler is with me." Inside the bunker, Eva's daily routine was very limited. She mostly spent time in her room, arranging her photographs, or sometimes drinking coffee with Hitler. But one thing that becomes clear from her letters is that Eva Braun felt very lonely. These letters don't just show Eva's love and loyalty, but also reveal her inner fear and loneliness. Talking about the situation outside the bunker, in the final 10 days, Berlin had turned into a battlefield. Allied bombers were dropping bombs on Berlin every day and every night. The Red Army, which was the military of the Soviet Union, was fighting Hitler's army just a few kilometers from the bunker at Berlin's border. Although Hitler's army had about 900 tanks and nearly 500,000 German soldiers to defend Berlin, even then, Nazi Germany's forces were crumbling. Hitler, who had dreamt of ruling here for 1,000 years, was now clearly failing badly. The people of Berlin were trying to save their lives by hiding in bunkers and basements, but on the radio only Nazi propaganda and music could be heard. Soon, the Red Army soldiers defeated German forces on all sides of Berlin's outskirts. A German soldier said that, when he returned to Berlin, he could barely recognize the city, because there were piles of rubble everywhere. This was the time when even the German army began to see the end of Hitler's leadership. Just days before Hitler's death, another drama unfolded. Hermann Göring, who was the chief of the German Air Force under the Nazi regime, revealed his intention to take power. Hermann Göring was a close associate of Hitler, to whom Hitler had given various positions. In 1933, Hitler made him in charge of the Air Ministry. In 1935, he became Commander-in-Chief of the German Air Force. In 1936, he was made in charge of the four-year plan, which aimed to boost Germany's economy. Then in 1941, Hitler gave Göring the title of successor and deputy, meaning Göring was to take control after Hitler. Göring believed that Hitler was trapped in Berlin, and now the leadership should be transferred to him. He sent Hitler a telegram, in which he wrote that if Hitler could no longer make decisions, then he should officially transfer leadership. Seeing this, Hitler, who was already deeply depressed, became furious with rage. He removed Göring from all his positions and declared him a traitor, ordering his arrest. Later, Hermann Göring was arrested and sentenced to death, but just a few hours before his execution, he took poison and ended his life. On one side, the Red Army was advancing into Berlin, and on the other, one of Hitler's closest allies had committed treason. This entire situation forced Hitler to do things he had never imagined. It was April 29, 1945. Hitler called those around him and said the time had come. At 1 a.m. that night, he officially married his longtime mistress, Eva Braun. The marriage took place right there in the bunker, in the presence of 2 or 3 officers. After the wedding, he called his secretary and told her to write his will. In it, Hitler wrote, "My wife Eva and I have chosen death. For us, death is better than the shame of surrender." Unfortunately, the marriage lasted only 1 day. On April 30th, 1945, at 3 p.m., Hitler gave poison to his dog named Blondie and went into a room with Eva. Exactly 24 hours after their marriage, both ended their lives in that room. Hitler shot himself with a pistol, while Eva consumed a cyanide capsule to embrace death. The bunker staff had already received instructions, so they took both bodies out to the courtyard and burned them. Hitler didn't want to leave any trace behind. Before their deaths, they burned documents in there, personal photographs, and in the end ordered their bodies to be burned as well. All this shows that even at the time of death, Hitler didn't want to fall into the hands of his enemies. He didn't want the Soviet soldiers to capture his body and show it to the world as a trophy. That is why he had ordered his body to be burned. When the Red Army reached the bunker, they found only burnt remains. But confirming that they were Hitler's, took thorough investigation. They collected samples of Hitler's teeth. Hitler hated visiting the dentist, so he had a very unique gold dental bridge made, which covered his broken teeth. Through this bridge, Hitler's body was identified. You will also like and share this video of Crash Side. Thanks for the lovely comments. Meet you in another lovely video.